I'm going to introduce the next person, and we're hoping we have her there. And this will be Andrea Jones, who's the Public Engagement Lead, Solar System Exploration Division of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and Director of the International Observe the Moon Night. Now, she's going to be broadcasting to us from the Great Mall in Washington, because she's in charge of what NASA's doing there on the ground. So if we've got her.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
All right, wonderful. Well, hi, everyone. It is my sincere pleasure to be there with you in spirit from the National Mall. As you heard, I'm the Solar System Exploration Division Public Engagement Lead, so I work with all of our planetary science missions and research teams and try to share the science that we're doing at NASA with people like you. And here on the National Mall, we are just expecting crowds and celebrating that. So I don't know if I should really try to, but behind me there's a giant moon map where people can walk on the moon on the National Mall. We have guided tours of lunar sites with NASA scientists. We have Lego out here. We have ReadyJet Go. We have people from all over the entire agency here celebrating this great anniversary, because it is a human triumph, and it is a triumph for international everyone, and also for all of NASA. So we have here on Earth all over the place in places we call planetary analog sites that help us better understand the Earth, but also help us understand the Moon and Mars and other rocky worlds in our solar system and exoplanets. As we seek to look beyond our own star and head farther out into the galaxy, we're trying to understand the similarities and the things that make each place unique. So we are very, very excited, highlighting all kinds of science and engineering for the people here on the National Mall, and also getting ready to celebrate additional Apollo anniversaries. This is the start, the lunar landing begin it all, and it's wonderful to be here on the mall where we can show people how the distance that they're walking across the grassy area is about the distance that we first were able to go on the moon, but with more technology, more confidence as we explored the moon further, we were able to land in a canyon deeper than the Grand Canyon by Apollo 17, and with our lunar rovers explore even more of the surface. And we're getting ready to do that again as we're heading towards the moon with Artemis. We're going to be doing future exploration, and we're using our current assets like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is a mission at the moon right now today, to build on the legacy of Apollo, use our current exploration assets to prepare for future exploration of the moon. And we view the moon as a place to really test out our boots and check the leaks in our tent before we head on to Mars. And that way, it's a lot harder to get there. And so we want to make sure everything works out. So we have an exploration program that will take us further. And it all starts here on Earth. And it all starts with the people in your room, the people here on the mall who get excited about space and science and exploration, and then share it through forms of art, through music, through cultural expressions. And we're going to be celebrating that, of course, all throughout the Apollo anniversaries, and especially through International Observe the Moon Night each year in the fall, where we celebrate lunar science, exploration, and the moon as it relates to us personally and to us as a human species and cultures around the world. I hope you can hear me. I hope that was clear to everyone there. If you do have any questions, I would be delighted to answer them. Otherwise, I hope you have a fabulous time celebrating in New York City, and we will certainly continue to do so around the world.
Yes, we did hear you, and yes, there are going to be questions. Okay. If you can't get that one, let him use this mic.
Yes, hi. Hello, and thank you for...
Just come here.
I'm going to get kind of close to the camera, sorry.
Okay.
It's a little bit sweaty. I hope I don't get any flex on you out there.
No, we're fine, thank you, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us. My question is, from our last visit to the moon to now, what have we learned as a nation, as scientists, moving forward to return?
Oh my goodness, what a good question. And do you have a few weeks where I can talk to you? Wow, so there are so many things, but I'll just choose maybe a few to highlight because I really think that this could take forever. So some of the things that we have learned most recently are with our Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and that is a spacecraft that's again at the moon right now. We just celebrated 10 years at the moon in June, so 50 years of Apollo, 10 years of Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and with that mission, we are rewriting the textbooks of lunar science. So before LRO launched, we had thought that the moon was essentially a geologically inactive place. We thought most things had happened on the moon a long time ago and we were just going to go read those records. But what we have found is that the moon is still an active place today. We are watching new impact craters form on the lunar surface all the time. We keep monitoring that, and it turns out the lunar surface is churning faster than we thought, which has implications for future exploration because you have to build to maintain structures that will last through a heavier bombardment, especially of micrometeorite impacts than we had anticipated. So that was really important. We've also found out that the cracks and the features on the moon that are evidence of shrinking in different places that we had known about during the Apollo era are all over the moon, and that means that the entire moon is actually shrinking, maybe even still today, within the past few million years. And as a geologist, that's like yesterday. So that is still going on. We've also found evidence of recent volcanism, recent being again on the scale of millions of years, but given that the moon is billions of years old, finding volcanism that's millions of years old may mean it could even continue to happen today as well. We're also finding more evidence of water on the moon. So from the Apollo samples, we actually did have water in them, but our technology at the time was not able to identify that water, or at least not definitively. But now we have new technology that allows us to do better analyses of the samples that we brought back 50 years ago. So we have evidence of water in those samples. We also have evidence from remote sensing, from radio telescopes, from, again, our Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, from the Moon Mineralogy Mapper on Chandrayaan, that have helped us understand that there is water all over the surface, and especially at the poles, which is one of the reasons that we're driving towards the poles, especially the South Pole, with our next lunar missions with people. So many things, but those are some of the highlights from recent days.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Okay, one thing, Andrea, I want you to do while the next person is coming up to ask their question is to tell us what this International Moon Day is that you're doing on October 5th.
Sure, absolutely. So again, this is an annual celebration of the moon, and it was inspired when the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and our sister mission, the Lunar Crater Observing and Sensing Satellite, LCROSS. It's hard to say all the words in the acronyms. But when we got into orbit around the moon, we wanted to have a big party and celebrate that. And so to do that, we had celebrations at NASA Goddard and at NASA Ames, and people were really excited about them. And we thought perhaps we'd have a national Observe the Moon night. But that didn't work out because some of our international partners heard about this and decided, wait a minute, we want to get in on this too. And so around the world, people celebrate the moon each year. And this is a program where we have sort of the idea of this is a time for everyone to go out and look at the moon and learn about the moon and celebrate the moon in their own way. So on our website, moon.nasa.gov/observe, we have moon maps in the phase that the moon will be in on the day that year. It's always in the fall. It's always a first quarter moon because that's actually great for observing. Full moons are really great. Actually, the moon is always great for observing, so I encourage everyone to go out whenever they can possibly see it. But if you have an afternoon or evening event, a first quarter moon is highest in the sky right at sunset, and so that tends to be a good time to take a look at it for a lot of our hosts. So we have events all around the world. We have tips for how to host events on our website, or we have location finders. If you are interested in participating in an event like this, you can find that. And we have science centers and libraries and music centers and NASA centers and back backyards around the world. We have ice cream shops and weddings and all kinds of people who just get out and say, hey, I'm going to go look at the moon and I'm going to learn about the moon. And you can share that through social media as well. So you can observe the moon, hashtag observe the moon, from all different social media platforms and see how people in the Philippines and in Africa and from the International Space Station and anywhere people are, how they're observing the moon. And it's just a great unifying experience where we can celebrate the moon together.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Bruce. I'm from New York. From a geological point of view, have it ever been discovered why, when the limb was dropped back to the moon, it made a ring, and then when they dropped a heavier limb on the moon, it made a gong? Do you know why that happened?
I'm not certain. I am not sure of that exact circumstance, so I hesitate to answer for that specific thing. But I do know that, I mean, the moon is a diverse world. So depending on where you are, even in a small area, the surface can be very different. And the surface is mostly rocky, but also covered in regolith. And so that regolith is that dusty surface, and it can vary in depth widely around the lunar surface. So some places it's very deep, some places it's less. And depending on where you drop on there, it could have a very different sound. Well, sound, you can't really hear much on the new moon, but you can see the features differently. So my only suggestion is that perhaps what was underlying the spacecraft was different, but I don't know the particulars. I'm sorry about that. But you could perhaps check it out in the Apollo Surface Journal, or if you email me, my email is public. It's andrea.j.jones@nasa.gov. I am friends with a lot of Apollo researchers who specialize in Apollo history and in the science related to the landing sites, and I'd be happy to do some more digging for you.
Hi, Andrea. My name is Ann. My father, George Sedlkowski, worked on the satellite communications for the moon missions. In his last days, we watched the NASA channel. My question to you is, are you ever on the NASA channel? And why don't we divest ourselves of all these other cable stations who do not carry the NASA channel?
Excellent. I think we should all watch NASA TV all the time. Absolutely. So I think I am occasionally in the background. I don't have any special show or any special time that I'm featured, but I think I have been in the background on a few events that NASA TV is here, I think, and filming. So perhaps I'll be in the background again. But no, I do not have any special prominence on NASA TV. But thank you to your father. That's wonderful, and what an exciting job. As a Goddard employee, I will also mention that the first communications from the Apollo missions actually came through Goddard. So we heard, the Eagle has landed just a few, probably not even milliseconds before the rest of the world, but it did come through there. So was your father at Goddard? And if not, he probably knows people that had been working there.
Andrea, we want to thank you for being with us, and we want you to do this for us as we conclude. This will be your concluding statement. Could you tell us why you got interested in space, how it happened, and why you do what you do?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm a scientist. That's my training, but I also, my parents have always taken me outside. So I grew up camping and hiking and learning about the world at the beaches, in the mountains, wondering why are the oceans where they are, and why are the mountains, getting taller in some places or getting shorter in others, and then they took me out west. I grew up in New Jersey, not too far from New York City, and I got to see the night sky in a way I had never experienced, and I just was awed and inspired and amazed that there were worlds outside in this huge galaxy that I had never even really thought about. And so I got into geology. I wanted to study the Earth, and then I really wanted to study the stars as well. Found this field called Planetary Geology, where you can combine your love of the Earth with your love of space and put them together. And I loved that, but then I missed sharing it with people. So I went and I was a national park ranger in Canyonlands National Park, And then I worked at a science education camp where I taught about birds and squirrels and rocks and stars and line dancing and adventure courses. And then I missed the science, so I went back to graduate school and did my graduate work in planetary geology and with the HiRISE camera, the high resolution imaging science experiment on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And from there, I just couldn't get away from space missions. And so that path led me ultimately to NASA Goddard. But it has been a great ride. But really the story is that I love science, but my favorite part is getting other people excited about science. So now I get to stay informed with the science, but really what I get to do is get other people excited, and that just is the best job I can possibly imagine.
Well, you definitely did that today, and we want to thank you. We all want to thank you for what you're doing down there today, and maybe we'll see you on International Moon Day.
Absolutely. I hope everyone goes out and looks at the moon, and happy moon landing day, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.